Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the L Forum Leadership series. It's been a while since we caught up, and today I have the pleasure of inviting a very good friend of mine who is an entrepreneur by passion, an attorney by training, and also a researcher on music as a hobby. So, ladies and gentlemen, happy to present Neil Salters. Welcome to the show, Neil.
Well, Ringo, thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Happy to be here.
My pleasure, Neil. So let's get the show started. And my first question to you is tell us about your journey so far. Tell us about your journey in the insurance world and as an attorney and
Well,
your experiences.
I'd be happy to share it with you. I don't know how exciting it will be for your viewers, but my journey is a bit different than most. I mean, not in the beginning. I went to college, went to law school, fully intended to be a practicing attorney. But once I started practicing as an attorney, I decided I didn't care for it too much. And I was a litigation attorney dealing primarily with bodily injury cases, products liability, medical malpractice. In fact, my first job was as a defense attorney defending doctors and hospitals. I was also on the Agent Orange defense team and the Johns Mansfield defense team. And those jobs took me to a lot of places in North America, dealing with expert witnesses and things like that. But I knew pretty early on that I didn't like being a litigator. It was a lot of anxiety involved. I still have some of my closest friends are still litigators to this day, and we laugh about that all the time. It's a hard job. Trial attorneys have a variety of issues they go through to maintain that as a way of earning a living. So I actually quit doing that, and I was going to be a writer because I've always had a passion for certain creative endeavors. But I found that my family needed a paycheck. So I grazed over to another field and entered the insurance industry, where I rose rather dramatically to pretty high levels for some major companies in the United States. Learned an awful lot about corporate America and about insurance companies. I worked in Chicago, New York, and learned quite a bit. I then went out and became a little entrepreneurial, and I became involved in starting and this turned into be really what I'm good at. I either get involved in starting companies or fixing broken companies. And so for the next couple of decades, that's really what I did. And that took me to India a number of times, London, Florida, New York. I set up companies in a lot of different places, back offices, front offices, top to bottom. And again, learned many lessons in doing those things. And most recently, I've become strictly entrepreneurial in a couple of areas that I find I enjoy and that I'm pretty good at handling. One is I, with a group of colleagues, started an insurance company. That went live not quite a year ago, and we're doing pretty well for a startup insurance company. And just recently, we actually just went live last week. I've also got together with a group of colleagues, and we started an ADR company, which is Alternative Dispute Resolution. And that's also going to be a national company. And it's just starting out right now, but we've already made some amazing contacts, and we expect that that will be growing pretty rapidly in the year ahead. And that's where I am. And that's how I
Wow.
got there.
Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot. You kind of put it in a nutshell. That was succinct but very deep. And I
Well, I'm sorry. I find that my work experience is sort of unique. I've been both a plaintiff's attorney, a defense attorney, an insurance company executive. I've worked for so many different aspects of so many different things that I am able to understand different perspectives very well, and that's one of the main attributes I bring to the table.
Absolutely. And I've had the privilege of working with you number of times.
And I with you.
Yeah, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
And good people come back to each other all the time.
Yes, I totally believe that, and I totally believe in the logic that work should be like fun. When it stops being fun, don't do it.
Listen, I think we've all been in those circumstances where work is not fun. And
Yes.
that is good advice. When you are in that situation, exit. And that's what I did with being a trial attorney. It was not fun. And, it may have been lucrative, but it was not enjoyable. And it probably would have ruined my life if I stayed in something that I did not like. So I switched and then switched
Excellent.
again and continued switching.
And I'm glad that you turned entrepreneurial and we got opportunities to work together. So, which brings me to my next question, Neil. What is your um, view of leadership? What do you think is leadership?
Well, that's a question I could probably talk about for much longer than you would like to hear. But leadership is actually a very subtle and I think creative role to take. And it can mean different things in different places. But I think you do have to, and I'll come back to something I just said before, I think it's very important to understand perspectives, whether they are people working with you, working for you, your client, your adversary. If you intend to be successful as a leader, you have to understand and accept the other side's perspective. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it. It may mean that you have to deal with it, but it's very important. The other thing, and this is something my father taught me when I was a child, actually. My father was pretty high up in the Internal Revenue Service. In fact, I think he actually audited what was called Murder Incorporated, and had some very interesting audits. But at one point, he was auditing a bank that was going under, and he told me something, and I didn't really understand his job. I was 13. He said, "Whatever you do when you're in a tough situation, do something. Don't do nothing. So even if you do something and you make a mistake, you will realize it, and then you'll be able to turn it around." But I have used that constantly, and that is to act, to make a decision. Do not be afraid to be wrong. The worst thing that can happen to a leader and turn a leader into, well, to alter that status, is to not act decisively. It's very easy to succumb to fear. As a leader, and I'm a student of military history, and if you study military history, you'll see that there are many great generals who thought they were great, but when the time came, they were not. And it's the same thing in business. You are always going to be required to make decisions based upon incomplete or incorrect information or data. If you wait to get complete data or correct data or data that's going to make you comfortable that the decision you're about to make is guaranteed to succeed, you will not succeed. You have to make decisions based upon the information that's at your disposal at any given moment. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't get help if you can get it. I always try to get help. There are so many things I do not know and do not understand. And if I am faced with an issue that I do not understand, I will try to speak to somebody who does, and I will listen to their advice and apply it. But you have to be the one as a leader who puts their name on the dotted line. And if you do that, yes, you will make mistakes, but you will find your role as a leader expanding, because quite frankly, most people are afraid to do that and will not do that. That's my experience. At even the biggest companies in the United States, You will find executives that will be afraid to put their name on a decision. So that to me is the most important thing. But also be flexible. And finding that middle ground between decisiveness and flexibility is where leadership, I think, lives.
Excellent. That's a great decision. I'm going to keep this. Do something. I like that. Do something is a good one. That's great advice. So, which kind of segues well into our realm, which is what this group is all about, which is the Entrepreneurial Leadership Forum. What do you think are the differences in being an entrepreneurial leader? How different is it being an entrepreneurial leader?
If you're as an entrepreneurial leader, simply means that you're going to sleep less at night. You have skin in the game. You have decided that this is your baby, whether you're alone or whether you're with partners. The satisfaction of being an entrepreneurial leader is greater, and your ability to succeed and fail rests more with you. When you're simply a leader within an organization where you do not call the shots, you're limited as to what the company can and cannot do. I have been with owners who are extremely entrepreneurial and, quite frankly, by any standards, geniuses. They come from, Penn, Harvard, you name it. Fantastic educations, extremely high IQs, lousy entrepreneurial leaders, just remarkably bad. And when you are working within their framework, you are relatively powerless to deal with that. When you are the entrepreneur and the leader, you have the ability to literally make the decision to guide the ship. So if you're the captain of the Titanic and you see the iceberg, you can make the decision to turn the boat or not. If you are the captain, or if you're the in command on the bridge and you have to wake up the captain, your decision might be too late because it's not your decision. You may have an opinion, but ultimately the decision lies with somebody else. So when you're the entrepreneurial leader, you have that additional stress. When you go to sleep at night, you know that the decision rests on your shoulders. When you're not the entrepreneurial leader, you're just the leader. You go to sleep going, hey, I gave my best advice. And now, if we hit that iceberg, I'll be looking for a job. So it's an anxiety level, but it's also a control level. So you have far more say in whether you're going to succeed or fail as an entity. So the only really, really important piece of advice, if you're the entrepreneurial leader, is that before you start leading, do whatever you can to make sure that you are not underfinanced.
Wonderful.
If you are undercapitalized, wait, because if you are not properly capitalized, you will not be able to make the correct decisions. And most businesses start undercapitalized, from what I see.
Great. Very true.
And that's the big difference. I mean, it's hard to lead no matter what, but always make the decision, move forward. If you did make a mistake, correct it immediately. If you make a bad hire, let's say you brought somebody in to be your right hand, and this is somebody with an impressive resume and a great track record, but something doesn't smell right. You're 10 days in, and the emails are not being returned, or if there's not a meeting of the minds, there's a clash of wills. Dump that person right away and move on. Don't hang on to dead wood, because they will drag you down. And that's, if you are the entrepreneur, make that decision. That's an important one. Bring people in you trust, people that you can listen to, people whose advice you respect, okay, and build a team that handles many different things, because you can't do everything. So you need to delegate. As an entrepreneurial leader, do not micromanage. I know a lot of people want to, they feel the need to. Usually it's nerves. It's not getting done the way I would want to get it done. If you're going to grow a company and you're micromanaging, the company will not grow. The leaders you hire under you will not lead, which is why you hired them. Okay, so the entity will self-destruct. So I don't know what else I could tell you.
No, that's wonderful, Neil. And that kind of, you probably touched upon a few which are possibly parts of my next question, which is, what are the challenges of an entrepreneurial leader?
Money, startup money. You have to be capitalized. Make a plan. I know people hate doing business plans. And this might be the hardest part when you're starting something. Let people throw stones at it. Build the plan. Take it to people who know what they're doing, people who have different perspectives than you, and let everybody kick it. Do not be defensive about it, because that exercise will save you time and money and aggravation down the road. It's like, how can how sometimes you'll write a letter to somebody, and you'll read the letter and you think the letter is perfect. You haven't misspelled anything. The sentences all make sense because you wrote the letter, and you see it the same way every time, no matter how many times you proofread it. You turn it over to somebody else and they go, you left out the word "the" here, or, how did I not see that? It's the same thing with starting a business. You have an idea in your head. You think it's a great idea, otherwise you wouldn't be starting the business. You put together a plan. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. Then this will happen. Allow people to poke holes in it. Remember, I told you earlier about these geniuses who run businesses that are horrible entrepreneurs. I won't name his name, but there's a guy who he brought me on. He had a small 15-person company, and I helped him turn it into a 150-person company and move it from one state to another and set up operations in India. It was actually a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. Man was a genius. And he would have meetings, with me, his other executives. And these meetings were this gentleman telling us that he would do this, and the clients would do this, then we would do this, then the clients would do that, and then we would do this, and then that would happen, and we would make $1 million. And I would sit there and I would go, what if on that first one, the client doesn't do that, but does this? Well, that can't happen. Okay. Of course, it did happen. And so that man struggled, and I think is struggling to this day. But you have to allow other people to take a shot at your golden idea. I can't tell. There are a number of people I go to when I think I have a bright idea. And I'll run it past them, and they'll go, well, that's stupid. Or did you think of this? And I may not abandon the idea, but it makes you think, and it makes you reprocess, because you tend to get entrenched in your own philosophy. And your own philosophy is only as good as your brain on any given day. And I know my brain is lacking most days. So I need people to give. I always like hiring people who will tell me I'm a jerk when I'm a jerk. It's very important, because I am often a jerk. I see things this way, and somebody says, but you're not seeing this, which brings me to the next thing that is the hardest part about being an entrepreneurial leader. Know your business from the top down. I think it's Disney. I could be wrong about this, but and maybe they've changed the policy. But years ago, Disney, even if they hired an executive, basically put every person, through a training program where they learned everything that went on at Disney World or Disneyland, from the vendors all the way up. And that's important. You can see the same thing if you've ever been to Las Vegas and some of the really well-run casinos. You have to know how the smallest job in your company gets done, because at some point you're going to wake up one morning and you're going to have a bright idea, and that bright idea is going to change. I need to change something. I need to add something. I need to do something different. And you're going to issue a directive, and you're going to say, from now on, our great company is going to change in every letter we write, when we say Dear Fred, the dear is going to be in red letters that reflect the emblem that we have. And I'm just using that. It could be some other sounding very great idea. The problem is that you don't have any idea how it affects, Maggie and John in the basement of your entity, and how it's going to ruin their day, because that's going to cost them 15 more minutes every day to do whatever it is you just thought of, and they don't have those 15 minutes. And so you have to understand what the people in the basement are doing, what the people in the mezzanine are doing, and what the people right outside your door are doing. And if you don't, you're going to be surprised one day, and it will not be a good surprise.
Excellent. I love that. And I think knowing what your business is, knowing what everybody's doing, also sends a signal that you are in the know, and it aligns with your vision as to what you want to do. If there's any misalignment, hopefully you'll figure it out and say, hey, that's not how I wanted to do it. Looks like we missed something here, or maybe you're reading my entire message wrong, like you rightly said. So I think it kind of I'm a big fan of the whole clarity of vision. And the leader has to be very clear what he or she wants to do.
I totally agree.
So,
And to that end, I think it's also very important you have to use emails. I get it. Emails are important. The whole world runs on emails. They are also a horrible thing. Many of your internal arguments, disagreements, and issues arise through the use of emails. People read emails in the worst possible light all the time. So it's always very good to have in-face meetings, even if it's just like on Zoom like this. Like, I know I was running a company a few years ago, and we were entirely remote long before COVID. But I would make sure that every other week we would meet at a coffee shop, me and my people, and we would sit down and talk face to face. It's really important. So just be careful of emails.
absolutely. So I'm so glad that you're actually almost segueing into my next question, and you already gave a free
We
advice.
think alike. What can I say?
Absolutely. Which my last question for our session today is, what advice do you have for leaders and
I
entrepreneurs?
thought you were going to ask me what my favorite color was.
That I know possibly.
I'm sorry. What was the last question?
I mean, my question is, what would be your advice based on your experiences as a leader and as an entrepreneur? What you've already given some of them away. One is for the money, the other one is watch out for emails. But you know, if somebody is a young entrepreneur or a young leader, what are the things that they should really look out for? What's your based on your experience?
Look, all of the things that I said, I think are important. But in general, I think you really have to learn how to listen. Uh, Listening is a lost art. It is very important. You learn a lot from listening. seek out other people. If it's at the coffee shop, if it's at a seminar, if it's at the bar, if it's at the game, at the ballet, listen to people. Uh, you you'll know what's good information and what's bad, or you should, or you shouldn't be in the business. You need to hear other perspectives, other opinions. There's great wisdom out there. I used to think that I had a great idea, a great philosophical idea about, the future of humanity or something like that. And when I was younger, I thought, wow, I'm brilliant. And then I read more. And by the way, listening and reading, I think, are two of the same things. By reading, you are exposing yourself to ideas, and that's very important. And I found that all of the great ideas that I thought I came up with, somebody else had come up with about 2,000 years ago. And so listen, read, and look, this is my personal thing, but I whiteboard. I make lists. I have a weekly list every week, and I have a daily list every day. And when I have issues that I'm dealing with, you can't see it here in my office, but I literally have 5 whiteboards in my office. And when I'm stumped, I go to a whiteboard and I just start writing things down. Sometimes they're just random ideas or problems or things. And then by putting them in writing visually, I can study it, and then solutions start to take shape in my mind. And then I can start to write those as well. Every business process or operation that I have put together in the last 25 years, I have wired. And I don't know if you know what I mean by wiring, but it's probably a term that was used by coders, programmers. But I literally use, whether it's Lucid or Visio, I've used them both. Every business I have ever been involved with, I have wired the process. And then I wire the smaller processes within the big process. And I will have spreadsheets, not spreadsheets, but they're pictures of everything that happens. And so that I understand the complete operational workflow. And then, and this is the most important piece, I identify what I can call, or what I name, critical functions. And for every job description in a company, there is what I believe are critical functions and unnecessary functions. Critical function is the thing that is absolutely necessary for the business to succeed. Once I've identified the critical functions, I then build a virtual fence around that critical function so that no unnecessary process interferes with that critical function for that job description. And that's how I put a business together. Finally, I hire from the top down. I bring in my best people who are going to run the different parts of the organization, and they do everything, even the BS small tasks at the beginning, okay? So that they know what's involved and that I know what's involved. And as the business grows and you need to hire people, you then hire the next level under and the next level under. The smallest or less expensive pieces come last, okay? You have to have your team, your critical team in place and functioning. That's it.
Beautiful. I love that. I never thought of it this way. I think I always knew you had a very analytical and critical mind. But talking to you like this, you have shown me a new facet, Neil. So we have to do some whiteboarding sometime soon together.
It's like,
And
yeah, whiteboarding. Let's get a couple of
I
beers and
love that.
whiteboard.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And thank you so much for your
It's tea,
time,
by the
Neil.
way.
And thank you for your lovely thoughts and words of wisdom.
Yeah.
I wish you and all your entrepreneurial ventures all the very best and all success.
Same to you, Ringo. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.